guys, I've gotten a perfect response to this statement that someone made that P2B does not have the ideology of digital economy. This is a video of P2B. It's going to be a long video, but to watch to the end to understand that P2B have actually shamed all these APC members. Like, he have shamed all these allies of Tinubu. Like, this statement P2B made, this is an old video, but at least is an answer to this statement that this man made.
So you, in terms of that, you did not, Peter Obi did not convince you enough about how practical.
Him and his team, I don't think, had practical ideas about the digital economy or even the expertise to run these things.
So the issue of production that he was advocating for.
Well, he's advocating manufacturing. We're never going to compete with China. I think it's very important for everybody to understand that we cannot be competitive in agriculture or manufacturing because we simply lack the infrastructure, period. And I think we should just stop barking up that tree. There's just no way that we're going to produce more than China produces. It will always be cheaper for us to buy from China than for us to produce it in Nigeria.
Guys, I want to allow you guys to hear what P2B responded to that man, because this video of P2B is actually the exact response I needed on that statement, because people have been coming out to hammer it, but this one is from P2B itself. Like, himself, he came out to actually answer this man. How can you say that a man like P2B does not have the idea of digital economy? A man that have gone to Egypt by himself with his own money to make inquiries of how Egypt run their own electricity so that he can bring the ideas to Nigeria and make us buy, or let's say pay for little token for a greater plan of electricity. And then somebody is talking about this economy ideology. Just watch and listen to P2B. It's a long video, but watch to the end and you will enjoy every bit of the video.
Mr. B, you've been a voice in the wilderness during the 2023 campaign, highlighting the wastage by people in government. Here at News Central TV, we have had a look at the 2024 budget, and there are parts of it that give grave concerns about where the taxpayers' money is going. Have you had a look at the budget? And does it worry you the amount of money that is going to agencies that look like they're going to fritter away taxpayers' money?
I have, and I've several times raised concern, grave ones, about the budget. I've sent messages about it. If you follow me up in Twitter, you'll see where I have complained severally. Even when the senator, one of them, alleged that there was 3 trillion pardon, I did make a humble appeal that that budget be taken back and looked at to ensure that the right things are there. Because you could see it clearly that the budget, and I'll give you a few examples which I've highlighted. The budget of, say, National Library. A country the size of Nigeria does not have a national library to date. We have the National Assembly trying to build its own library for about 15 billion naira. When the budget of National Library is not up to 1 billion. That is where the whole nation, and I'm sure the amount of their own library, cumulatively, if we put all the universities together, you have budget of, again, National Assembly Clinic being 15 billion naira. When, if you put together the entire teaching hospitals, which is, in quotes, the height of our healthcare, if you put teaching hospital of our foremost universities, Ibadan, Nsukka, University of Nigeria, Ahmadu Bello, Lagos, is less than the budget of the capital budget, is less than the budget of National Assembly Clinic. I can go on and on. The Ministry of Science as a ministry, the entire capital budget is about 6 billion. When the budget of the car park of House of Rep and the Senate is about 6 billion.
So the priority of the government is to create car park.
Totally misplaced in today's system. And if you've seen that the pardon, which they said is not true, has now become even a reality. Because if you go where you're not seen in places of like National Space Research Development Agency, And you're now seeing 80 million for those beings in Oyo, 80 million for sensitization of unwanted pregnancy, 170 million for sensitization for territorial rulers on peace and conflict resolution in space agency.
So what space agency got to do with traditional rulers?
You can believe it. You're now seeing where we have about 300 million over a national news agency of Nigeria for tricycles and school renovation. And you can go on and on and on and seeing things like that. And you ask yourself, how did we come here? Like I've always said, government needs to prioritize our small resources in key development areas, which are health, education, and per capita, pulling people out of poverty. And these areas are not getting enough support. If you talk about your healthcare, the most important part of your healthcare is your primary healthcare. That is the foundation. We have today overtaken India in infant mortality, 7 times our population, and the capital budget of our primary healthcare for the whole nation is about 59 billion. The cost of our presidential jet at 100 million is about 160 billion. That is 3 times our primary healthcare.
And this is not the only private jet that the president has.
That's the new one.
That's the new one.
They said it's 100. We don't know the actual figure because they need to configure it and everything.
So when you say they need to reconfigure it, are you suggesting the numbers are being massaged?
I don't know what is happening because nobody knows. We now live in an era where nobody knows what is happening. All you know is that you wake up in the morning, they tell you, we've got these new cars. Nobody. That is why I keep saying we must go back to the parliamentary system of governance. Even if we have to maintain the presidential system, we have to include where everything have to be explained.
But when you say parliamentary, you know that the Constitution of Nigeria says it's a presidential system. Are you by any means suggesting that there is a need, or you're suggesting and supporting those who say there's a need for a national conference where we decide a new constitution for Nigeria?
The way we govern Nigeria, not just in the constitution, the way we move as a country. Yes, I support that. But then we need to also have, we can keep, even if we keep the presidential, there must be a bit of tweak to the parliamentary setting where it will be properly explained, all these expenditures, because the waste is incredible. What we're going through now is never imagined.
So how do you constitutionally, and I know you have never said or claimed to be a lawyer, but when you look as a politician who's been in the political domain in Nigeria for many years, how do you think it's going to be possible for Nigeria to have a constitution that says this level of wastage is not acceptable and this number of ministers in Nigeria and assistants and special assistants and senior special assistants will no longer be constitutional? How do you think that can be factored in?
I don't think it's a constitutional thing. I mean, constitutional government, because constitutionally now, what we have is not what it should be. The constitution says 1 minister per state. So 36 ministers. We have 40 something, so it's not a constitutional thing.
Should that be adjusted to maybe about 20 or even 16?
No, it's a leadership problem. It's a leadership problem. It's getting leaders that are conscious of the fact that our resources has to be prioritized in key development areas that makes a difference. It has nothing to do with it. Yes, we need to tweak the constitution for what I said earlier. But today what you need is, you need competent leaders that have compassion and are dedicated to prioritizing the resources of the government to key development areas, which are health, education, pulling people out of it, securing the country, making sure things work. The cost of governance and the waste today is criminal and unaccepted.
Nigeria has more federal ministers than the United States of America. How do you begin to comprehend and understand why we need so many? Would you suggest that if you were to become the president of Nigeria at some point in the future, you will definitely reduce the number of ministers to how many? How many ministers do you think Nigeria needs?
For me, I will stay within the Constitution. But I can tell you the cost of even keeping them and the waste across all the government will be drastically reduced.
So forget about what the Constitution says. If you were to have your way and you were to use logic and simple common sense, does common sense say that we need 36, despite the fact that the Constitution says it's 36? Do you think we need 36?
I have to look at what they are going to contribute. I have to look at their productivity. What is it they're going to do? Just like I always said, it is just not the number of people. What are they doing? If they're required and they have something they're doing, yes. But that what they're doing will be measurable. People have to feel it and know why they're engaged.
Okay, what I'm really trying to pin you down to tell me is, if you have your way and you have executive order that gives you permission to choose how many ministers you want to work with, would you like to have 6 or 10 or 20 or just say 36 is the number, I am happy to work with 36?
Thank you very much. I won't tell you exactly what I'm going to use here, but I won't go beyond the Constitution.
So what do you say to the current government that has gone beyond the Constitution by having more than 36 ministers?
They should stick to the Constitution and do the right thing. Because that's the basis on which they're governing. That is what they sworn oath to keep. The oath is to respect and keep the Constitution. So you live within it. That is actually the essence of what you're doing.
So would you call the action of the current government and the support that they've got from the National Assembly, would you describe it as illegal and unconstitutional?
Yes, it is. Because you're not working with the Constitution. You have to work with the Constitution. That is your Bible. That's what you sworn oath to keep. You cannot swear an oath to obey this and do otherwise. It's the same thing that is happening. Whether you're talking about issues of mismanagement of resources, corruption, everything, you're going out of the oath you swore to uphold.
Okay, so let's move on very quickly because I know we have very little time to go through all the issues that affect the state of the nation. Now, the budget in Nigeria in the last 8 years has consistently been very low on investment in the area of agriculture. You spent a few days recently in Rwanda, and a paltry sum of 1.5% to less than 2% of our budget is going to agriculture. That provides about 20% of the GDP consistently over the last 10 years. What is your feeling about this, and what kind of number do you think this government should be looking at in terms of percentage of the 23-25 trillion naira that is being budgeted for the entire nation? How much do you think should be going to agriculture, and why?
Well, let me you were even generous to them to say it's about 1.5. I don't think it's about 1.5 because the budget of agriculture this year is 362 362.9 billion, 363 billion, and the entire budget is about 28 point something, so it's about 1.3 trillion. So we're generous by giving them more. But for me, let me go back to my position on agriculture. It's to say that the two most critical area in Nigeria that is actually giving us the crisis is personal insecurity and food insecurity. And by solving food insecurity, you would have done a lot in dealing with personal or human insecurity. Because today, from the all records, you have 38 million people on the verge of extreme hunger. And you have huge number of your poverty capital of the world. So by going to deal with food insecurity, you're going to invest in agriculture, which will solve hunger, which is one of your biggest crises today, being 109 out of 120-something countries measured hungriest country. You're going to solve your hunger. You're going to create good job, because you've seen it as the biggest in terms of GDP contribution. It's actually the same thing in employment. So you're going to solve issue of unemployment, because it's going to employ more people. It's going to help your industries, because they have raw materials to process. The entire value chain is agriculture, processing, marketing, and of course, till it gets to the table where people eat. So you're going to be dealing with that entire value chain, which will create jobs. It's going to help you to deal with the issue of inflation. Because the biggest contributor to inflation today, negatively, is food inflation. By having more product, you're going to bring it down. You're going to be saving money you use in the importation of food products, again helping your foreign exchange stability. And if you export, it's going to help you to bring. So everything about agriculture is a win-win that you need to invest aggressively on it. Because by pulling people out of poverty and everything, you reduce the criminality and all that. For me, areas of agriculture, which deals with the third issue of development, pulling people out of poverty, health and education will receive no less than 10% each of the budget. And it's important. But if you look at what we have said about agriculture, if you look at your agriculture today, with a budget of 263 billion naira, in fact, out of that 363 billion, the actual thing that you're investing is 252.8, about 253 in capital budget. By the time you add 160 for new jet, 21 billion for new VP house, 15 billion for Library of National Assembly, 15 billion for their clinic, and all other furnishings, you find out you have 250 something billion for the entire country to solve issue of hunger. In fact, the overhead for the entire agricultural ministry is less than 10 billion, which is about the money you have spent, about 50% of the money you spent just in housing the vice president.
So tell me, Nigerians are saying that all politicians are the same. In just a few minutes ago, you were invited to our newsroom and you told the young journalists, all of them that work for News Central, you told them that the problem of Nigeria is not Nigeria, it is politicians. That is the problem of Nigeria. So nobody should be praying for Nigeria, they should be praying for our politicians. Now that brings me to this question that a lot of Nigerians are asking about our politicians. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria decided that he wanted to make the National Assembly members happy by providing them brand new vehicles that cost a whopping sum. That is the dream of so many Nigerians, but they just could never touch. There is not one member of the National Assembly that rejected this vehicle, not even members of Labour Party in the National Assembly. What does that tell you about the quality and caliber of human beings that are called Nigerians that are in the National Assembly?
If you recall when I mentioned to the young ones, very energetic, hardworking young ones in this facility, I said that we are the problem. I didn't exclude myself. I said we, the politicians, are the problem. I didn't exclude myself. And I was discussing with somebody yesterday, and I said to him, I read philosophy. And in philosophy, there's a topic called syllogism. And it says that when you have over 75%, you can't generalize without committing fallacy of generalization. In Nigeria, 95% of the politicians are the same. So the 5% remaining is very negligible. What we are saying is, how do we get one that will say, okay, I've had somebody confront me and said, okay, Peter, you wasted energy and time and you saved money. And when you were leaving government, you left huge amount of money. So tell me, which price did you get from doing that? Every other person took money and they enjoyed themselves today. You said you don't want to take the pension given to you as governor. So what difference does it make? You would have had a house in Abuja, a house in Oka, government is maintaining you. So it is a general thing that we all agreed. That's why I always say, this is a criminal entity, hijacked by criminals. The only way it can work is to dismantle it. But I know that if you have a leadership that can govern with determination, he can dismantle it. I have been a state governor, and I know what you mentioned with National Assembly is not the buying of the vehicle, but the impact on the society is far worse. Tell me how you can have the National Secretary of National University Commission recently said that Nigerian universities are in urgent need of PhD holders. I can't ask myself, who wants to be a PhD holder? If you become a PhD holder, you are employed as a graduate assistant level 2 or so in university. Your salary is 150,000 naira. Let me be generous and give you 200,000. That means in 1 year, you earn 2.4 million. Let's say it's 2.5 million. 2.5. If you decide as a PhD holder with 2.5 million naira annual salary to buy the car they've given to somebody whose only qualification is secondary school, it will take you 64 years.
So what do we...
Why would anybody want to be a PhD holder?
The level of criminality amongst our politicians is a disincentive to people who want to study.
When we talk about corruption, the reason why, because this is corruption, the reason why it is bad for society is that corruption kills entrepreneurship. Nobody thinks in a corrupt country. I say it every day. Why will I work hard to create a business and suffer to grow the business when I can make more money from being a politician? So you don't see people struggling to build business. Corruption kills professionalism. Why am I going to work hard to MPhD, research to be a professor? Because what I told you now, for a professor is double the salary, 400,000 if he's paid. Why will I struggle to be a professor? In fact, if you're a professor, your salary, like I said, is 400,000 monthly, 4.8, so call it 5 million annually. For 4 years, without spending your money, you earn 20 million as a professor. 1 month salary of National Assembly member is 21 million. Why do you want to be a professor? So corruption kills enterprise, kills professionalism.
So would you advise the president to do? Would you advise the president to do what he has done to the Supreme Court by increasing by 300% all university?
I'm going to, for me as president, we're going to dismantle this criminality. Everybody have to come at the same level, and we discuss the future of the country. And I say it is not without. This is something that is verifiable. I was governor of a state. I was impeached within 6 months. You know that. Of being a governor. And what was the problem? My own office as governor, there was a budget to renovate my office because it was burnt. The budget to renovate it was 298 million. I spent 42,300,000. That was my number 1 offense. Number 2 offense was that in my lodge, where I lived as governor, the entire budget, it was also burnt because they had a crisis before I came in. The budget to renovate the office was 486 million. I spent 81 million in doing everything. That was my number 2nd offense. The 3rd offense was that I was saving money. Everybody knew. You can go to Sook and verify. When I became governor, no permanent secretary in Anambra State had a car. No judge had a car. And I said no. I went to Pijo. It's still on record that I was about the highest number of Pijo ever bought by government. When I was governor, I went there and said, supply us 50 vehicles, 406. And in my first year, for 4 years, the vehicle I used as governor, it was 406. Permanent secretary, everybody was using the same car. 406 for the 4 years. In my first term, you can go, these are things that you can go and verify. And we shut down the office of First Lady. Because they had more money than some of my ministries. I said, hey, wait a minute. What is this? Nobody voted this woman. It's my wife. We love her. We live in the same house. But he didn't campaign. Nobody voted for her. He should have had her own convoy, even with ambulance and everything, creating additional confusion that was not supposed to exist. We shut it down.
Let me go back to the budget that was initially proposed as 27.5 trillion, while 28.7 trillion was passed by the National Assembly and signed by the president. Who do we blame for those situations where we are bleeding money for every questionable things while our debt continues to skyrocket and we're struggling with high fuel costs, high food costs, high inflation, and people are saying we're hungry? Where do we put the blame?
Squarely on the man who is in charge.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Period. Nobody else. He's the man voted for. He's the man they declared winner.
Why did you say they declared him winner?
Well, that's he was declared the winner.
Okay.
Yes, that's honest. He is the one who is responsible. No other person. That's why I told you I was impeached. Because I was the man they elected. That's why I can abolish First Lady office, abolish everywhere, and determine that I'm going to change this place. And he can do that. Look at our debt rising irresponsibly. There's nothing wrong in borrowing. Borrowing for any government globally is accepted. People make reference with every other country today. I've compared so many countries with the issue of borrowing. Even country people cite, like Singapore. Singapore today owes over 100% of their GDP. But they have a clear law that all borrowed money must be for investment. Japan owes over 200% of their GDP in debt. But the money Japan borrowed, most of their debts, apart from being domestic, were used for the economy and the people of Japan. And today, the highest holder of US treasuries, up until maybe 2 years ago, I don't know what else. China, every other person, wherever, have huge debts. But you could see where those debts were invested in. Today, we are the number 3 highest debtor to World Bank. That happened within the past 1 year. We actually estimated that the way we are going will soon be number 1 highest debtor.
The projection is that we'll have more than 150 trillion.
A country without anything to show for it. A country like Bangladesh is within those 3 highest debtors of World Bank. But you could see the difference. It is very clear. In 2015, let me not go back for that. 2015, when this APC government started, our debts was a third of what it is today. We are now over $100 and something billion. We're now in a situation where we can't explain what happened, but just look at a country like Bangladesh. In 2015, they had huge debts with a GDP of 195 billion and per capita of about 1,300. Today, Bangladesh, as of 2023, is with a GDP of over $460 billion, with a per capita of over 2,500. Nigeria in 2005 had a GDP of over nearly 500 billion, with per capita of over 2,500. Today, our per capita is just about a little bit over 1,000.
Okay.
That is the crisis you face. And we have tripled our debts. That means the money we borrowed were all either swallowed by snakes, pythons, tortoise, monkey, all sorts of things. That's why we are now in this new song of when people put the money, the elephants even follow that ate the money because the man goes to parties.
So guys, I believe you watched that video. I think this is a perfect response to that statement, because somebody coming out to talk something like this, you know that this person was paid or this person is an enemy to the person he's talking about. Because if they don't talk about P2B, that means they don't know, they don't have anything else to talk about. So they must talk about, they must drag P2B online before they will make their points. Because that is a very big mistake he did by calling out P2B. that P2B have no idea of digital economy. It's so sad and so insane that somebody in Nigeria will be saying that the APC government have good intentions about Nigerians. Just tell me one good thing you can say that APC government have done for us Nigerians since ever he came in office. May we make it 2 years this man have been in office, or this party have been in office, but we cannot even account for one thing that we can say that this government have done for us. Not even one thing that we can boast of. But Tinubu, P2B, that's not even the leader in any way. P2B is not even a politician, but we can account for more than one thing that he have done for Nigerians. And tell me why Nigerians are always standing for him is because this man single-handedly with his money went to North to transform North, to give hope to the North. This same man went to Egypt with his own money to make inquiry on how the Egypt should run their own electricity so that they can bring the idea to Nigeria. This same man I'm talking about have given scholarship to youth. This same man have given hope to Nigerians. Nigeria lost hope in everything Nigeria, but this man came and gave hope. Then somebody is coming out of hatred, want to criticize this same person that have done more good than the current government. This man P2B have actually helped this government to mend some places, some loopholes. Because if not for P2B, do you know how many criminals we will have in Nigeria? Do you know how many fights, how many protests we will be having? We would have revolution in Nigeria. But P2B came out and said no, that he's not a man of war, that he loves doing his own thing excellently. Because he always said before you can be called an excellency, your way to the seat must be excellence. I knew how youth wanted to carry out a revolution after they declared APC the winner. But P2B said no, that is not the way forward. Because youth, we are already ready. We are ready to go into the streets and cause havoc in Nigeria and just spoil Nigeria. But P2B said no, that this is not the way forward. And then somebody's coming out to speak against the same person that is bringing peace in Nigeria, the same person that gave us hope in Nigeria. I'm not only saying this because I'm a P2B fan, but I'm saying this because of what I've seen P2B done. P2B is not a leader in Nigeria. I keep on saying this, but he has more impact than the so-called leader. Imagine the hunger P2B have been talking about on how we can change this country from a country that consumes to a country that produces. But somebody that work with APC is coming out to say that we should not be producing, that we should keep importing everything we use, that's the way forward, that producing is more costlier than importing. Could you imagine what somebody will come out and say? Somebody that say that he's saying, we come out and say that we should keep on importing, that we should not produce, that we cannot compete with China. Nobody was competing with China. Nobody was competing with China. All P2B saying that let us turn this country to a country that produces. Since we have agriculture, we have raw materials to produce anything we want in this world. All we need is expertise. Go and import or go and call those persons that have the experts, that are experts in some areas, and then bring some youth. Go to Aba, you see youth doing wonders. Go to Aba, look for youth, then let them go under training, then bring up an infrastructure that can be used to produce all these things. These are only things people was asking for, and then somebody said that we should not be producing, we should keep on importing, that it is lesser important than producing. This is coming from somebody that said that people do not have the idea of digital economy, but yet you yourself do not know that we need to be producing more than import so that we can be able to build our economy, because our economy is in total mess. How can Nigeria be once the African giants, and now we are among the poorest in Africa because we have government that mismanage our resources? This is what Dokubo Hida said, that we have milk and honey in Nigeria, but what we have is a government that mismanage our resources. Because tell me why they are illegally mining our coin, mining our oil, our copper, everything in Nigeria is illegally mined, and yet the money is going in the pocket of the government. It's not going to see if they are illegally mining it and use the money for the betterment of Nigeria. They are also stealing our money for their own personal gain. They remove subsidy, the money for their own personal gain. They borrow money for their own personal gain. Nothing. They don't have the masses in mind, and then somebody is coming out to say that they have good intention for Nigeria. All right, guys, hey, if you're watching in the comment section, don't forget to subscribe, guys. Stay tuned, guys. It's your boy again, Kids World. Stay tuned.